Hi, I'm Lorie Coates, school psychologist and BCBA for Davis School District's BATE team.
And I'm Joceline Ruiz, BCBA and coordinator of the BATE team. We're back with a new episode of BATE Debate. BATE Debate will address simple research-based practices that will work with individual students or groups of students in school settings. The situations and questions are adapted from what we are hearing and seeing in schools. These are common struggles with students of all abilities, and although they are simple strategies, they will be effective at decreasing challenging behavior and making your day just a little bit easier. We're excited to share these strategies to make them available to SPED teachers, gen ed teachers, and all other staff working in schools. And check us out on social media at behavior_in_progress on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. All right, so Lorie, last time we talked about cultivating consistent compliance.
Yeah.
Do you have any stories that you can share on this topic?
I do, and I have two.
Okay.
So bear with me for a minute. My first story is just a few years ago. I was working with a teacher, and she had several staff in her classroom because it was a pretty significant classroom. And there was one student who would not comply with the other teacher no matter what happened. And so we started pairing. We had the staff member with the teacher presenting work, and the staff member provided the reinforcement. And over time, we were able to back that up, so then finally the student was working with that teacher. Mm-hmm. My second one, which may seem a little silly, but goes back to relationships. I had a teacher that I was working with who just couldn't find anything that she loved about this student, and she needed to build that relationship. And she called me one day, and because I told her, you've got to find one thing, just one thing that you like about the student. And she called me one day and she said, I love his shoes. And I said, great, now you have a talking point for it, right? Now you can talk about his shoes. And it was a talking point, and they developed more of a relationship, which increased compliance.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
Mine is kind of two stories in one because it was a similar situation happening at two schools where we had a student who complied more to male staff than they did to female staff.
Yes, we've had that.
Yeah, and it happens a lot where they just are more compliant with certain staff members. And one of the schools requested, if we get support from the BATE team, we'd like it to not be a male because we're all females working at the school, and we want the student to learn to respond to us.
Yes.
And so pairing that with lots of reinforcement and opportunities for fun so that the student would show compliance across all staff members in the school.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What's our topic for today, Joceline?
Today we're talking about joyful journey or finding joy in each student. Why is this such an important topic and one to be tackled by behavior analysts?
I think it's because we get so focused on challenging behavior that we forget about the wonderful and really cute kid that's behind the behavior. Teachers get exhausted, and we see this especially this time of year, by the challenging behavior, and they feel that all they're doing is managing behavior. If we can continue in that exhaustion phase and keep the challenging behavior our only focus, then we'll struggle to find times when there's opportunities for reinforcement. And we know that reinforcement is not only our favorite topic, but it is also critical for behavior change. Also, if we stay in that fog of challenging behavior and we're not seeing past that for the student, we're missing the enjoyable parts of our job. I think that's one of the biggest things to think about. It's important for staff to be reinforced just as much as it's important for students to be reinforced. And they need to have positive experiences. And all this just keeps the cogs rolling in a classroom. Yeah. What are some ways that we can find joy in the fog of this challenge?
Well, first, take some very deep breaths.
Yes.
And look for the personality in the student. Take a moment to spend time with the student and foster and build that relationship. I know we talk about relationships a lot, but they are really important. Find out what the student likes or enjoys and find ways to connect with them. You might have a common interest. I remember we were doing a training once and we were talking about building relationships with students, and a teacher talked about how he had a student that liked horror movies, and he's like, I went home and watched all the horror movies so that I could connect with this student, which was really cool to hear. So try to make things fun, even when they're not fun. Also, ask yourself, where's the humor in the situation? If we can laugh a little about how we reacted or thoughts that we had, but we didn't say, or something that the student said or did, we will have a much better outlook. To be very clear though, I'm not suggesting that we laugh about anything that would be mocking or hurtful. I'm talking about the funny behaviors that we do to show the core of who we are, our shared humanness. Like for example, I was in an escalation one time where the student had written on the walls, and the demand that the teacher had placed was, okay, we're going to clean the walls first before we move on to the next activity. And the student was struggling a little bit to clean just because it was hard to take off. And the teacher said, you need to use some elbow grease to take that off. And so the student rubbed his elbow and then started cleaning the walls. And he's like, wow, that really is working. So things like that.
That's the good humor that you can find.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
What happens when we don't take the time to find joy?
Then we stop bringing our best self to work. When we only see negative behavior, we just stop bringing our best self to work. In addition, many staff will start to begin to feel like they're failing. And I think that's really an unfortunate feeling because they only see the challenges. They don't see the other stuff happening. The impact on the student would include limited access to reinforcement, which I know is our mantra, for positive behaviors, but they would be getting a high level of reinforcement for challenging behaviors because that's where all the attention would go. The student will feel like they're failing and will have little desire to be at school. Relationships can be damaged and maybe take a long time to repair. We've got to find that shared humanness that you were just talking about. It's so critical, and see the joy in the journey for not only our students' success, but our own success. That's critical. Well, thank you for taking this time to tune into this episode of the BAIT Debate. We are so excited to have this opportunity to share behavior strategies. It's so important to find the joy in each student with whom we work. It allows us and the student to access positive reinforcement and have a better time at work. We hope the information we presented was informative and useful for you all today. We have lots more exciting topics that we'll be sharing throughout the year, so this will help to keep you and your educator friends reeled in. So we'll catch you next time.